first I want to get a little tactical. I want to read a couple quotes, share some philosophies here from Mortgage Coach and some of our beliefs, and then we'll close out the call with probably a good 10 minutes of Q&A. So, here's a great quote from Jeff. I always pronounce his name wrong, but the CEO and leader of Amazon, who has a very unique perspective. But if you make your customers happy in the physical world, and really the way I see it is that's the old world, they might tell 6 friends. But in the new world, if you make a customer unhappy, he can tell 6,000 friends. So again, that power cuts both ways. And I think as leaders, we need to understand that the world has changed. The opportunities on both sides of this sword cut differently. Service isn't doing what's expected. Service is doing more than what's expected. And Jerry, I don't know if you agree with this thinking or not, but I've always just felt that good service execution is, if it's not the greatest competitive differentiator, it's among the greatest differentiators in business execution.
Yeah, it should be, your service ought to be awesome. Everybody on your team ought to be trying to figure out how to wow the customer experience. And when you do that and when it happens, the results are marvelous. I see a lot of that in the kind of the trenches stuff I see in the companies I coach with. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I mean, this is one of the things, and I do think, at least when I talk to leadership teams, they're so busy with other tactics that are very important. I mean, whether it's preparing for the potential CFPB audits, preparing for other tactical things that are critical to success, but you've always got to have initiatives that are like, given our organization right now, what's the fastest and highest impact strategy to improve our service execution? And this is just a question that I'm always bringing up in our organization, and I see successful companies do this. Again, I'm going to share some Mortgage Coach thoughts on this. This was actually some thinking I put together when I was doing the research to prepare for the Building Champions Roundtable. It was first of all, thanks for inviting me to that, Jerry. But in preparation for that, it made me really think, if you're the CEO or you're a leader, how can you quickly and systematically improve your service execution? Can you do? Is it through people? Is it through training? And I've always just been wired that people and training are important, but they're not quick fixes. And at the end of the day, technology and the execution of technology in this market is a great differentiator. So when you think of this WOW platform, think of it, is it your marketing? And I think every company that's listening to this call right now, you have different opportunities, you have different strengths, and you have different weaknesses. So there's no one right answer for everybody. But, what's your fastest path to better service execution? Is it your marketing? Is it your selling, how you win that business? Is it your back end? Because at the end of the day, if you're not executing on the back end, and by the way, Jerry, what is excellence in terms of back end execution in today's market from your perspective?
Well, my standard of belief is that you need to take an app and take it successfully through all processing, underwriting, and have docs to the closing agent a day in advance and fund it a day in advance so that you delight the customer to the expectation you set. And if you can do that, you're going to win all your battles, I believe.
Again, more clarity, guys, from an industry legend. So, and then there's step 4, which is loyalty, bringing them back into the circle. And when we think about it from a leadership perspective, there's a lot of technology out there. There's a lot of options. And again, that represents opportunity. It also represents distraction. And I see so many leaders chasing some of those things that they're just too hard to execute, or they're not executing it in the right way. And when you think of technology, it's changed so much over 20 years. You know, think of cell phones 20 years ago. By the way, Jerry, did you ever have one of these?
Yes, I did. I hate to admit that, but I did. I guess it goes with being old enough to be thought of in a legendary sense.
Well, hey, I had one too, you know. I mean, so.
I feel better now. I feel better.
Yeah, I really did. And, you know, that technology has come a long way. You know, think about what we can get now for $100 a month and $100, you know, deposit. You can get an iPhone, and you know, that old technology, it's old. And when you think of computers, you know, I mean, you know, the old school computer, the new school computer. And by the way, I was happy to hear that you're on an Apple, Jerry. Congrats on that. Yeah, I was really happy to hear that.
Yeah, good.
How long have you been on an Apple, by the way?
You know, I think I bought the Apple 5 years ago, and now I've got two of these laptops, a desktop, iPad, and an iPhone. And if I could only figure out how to connect them all and get my passwords all the same, I'd be in good shape. I'm going to have to see your technology guy to figure that out.
Yeah, let us know. We'll be happy to help you. But nevertheless, a lot has changed. And again, this is 20 years. It's not 50 years. It's just, you know, the past 10 years, the past 20 years. But one thing has not changed within a lot of companies. Again, I'm going to share some perspective here in a minute, tactically, how I think things should change and what I recommend to companies. But, you know, this is how most companies execute the WOW platform, is the loan officers are in charge of the execution to the left, and the corporate is all about back-end and loyalty. When in fact that rate quote is a real magical moment. You know, that rate quote is so important for a couple of reasons. One, someone wins, and actually there's not usually one loser. There's multiple lenders and loan officers that lost a loan, but there's only one that wins a loan. And then two, I think one of the things that we really forget in our industry, especially in today's marketplace with great technology, is if you deliver a great experience, customers tell each other. And it can be multiples like never before. So word of mouth is more powerful than ever. So how you execute at that rate quote and the experience that you deliver from a service execution standpoint, it makes a difference like never before. So again, one quick survey question I want to ask everybody is, do you let your loan officers make that decision? So real quick, again, I'm not going to make you get to 70%, but I do want to get a feedback from the audience. Does your loan officer decide how they do the rate quote, or do you as a company have tools, technology, solutions? Obviously, if you're Mortgage Coach clients, you have some, but how are you executing right now? And again, you know, let's at least get over 50% here, guys. Jerry wants 100%. I'll be happy with 50.
Okay.
All right. So thanks. We got a nice push there. So I'm going to keep going with the presentation because I really wanted to get into Q&A. But let me just walk you through from a Mortgage Coach perspective what the difference between, you know, average and great is, and then we'll get into the Q&A. But this is average execution. If you leave it to your loan officers, they're either going to be doing something like this or something that looks like a, you know, just a basic rate quote. But this is what a great experience looks like in the rate quote process. You know, it's got branding that steps out. It's got compliance that's all taken care of by corporate. It's got the basic rate quote, because you need to have the basic rate quote, but you also need to be able to drill down into the details. And again, using new technology, it's easier now than it's ever been to really create an online experience and an offline experience that isn't overwhelming, but it's powerful. Again, you know, being able to drill down on the prepayment. Again, these reports, you can email it to your client, and when your client opens it up and reads it, you're able to get an alert to know that they're doing that. So again, really quick, I wanted to go over what the difference between a very average execution at the rate quote was and an exceptional execution, and really put a thought out there to key executives to consider as a corporation really putting some investment and some leadership into how you're executing that rate quote. It's a key touch point in the process, and how you're executing really does make a difference. So one more question. Is that starting to make some sense, that you would put some thought into the execution of using technology to improve that experience? Does that make sense to anybody out there? So again, we are at 20%. And again, Jerry, you've seen this presentation before. I'm pretty much done. What are your thoughts on, having an organization care about that rate quote? Because that's not traditional thinking. That is a new thought.
One, I think it's very important, and I think that I've had a chance to be on your system and see how it's used and talk to people about Edge and so forth. And I just think that it's a wonderful tool for originators to use, and originators need to use it fully. Take advantage of it. It's a good differentiator. I think you guys have come up with some good stuff that you keep improving. So it's, to me, it's something that every company should be embracing.